My dear friends, today is the fifth Sunday after the Epiphany. It's also the feast of Saint Cyril, also the feast of Saint Apollonia. The choir members are invited to enjoy refreshments downstairs after Mass today for Choir Appreciation Day. A few new books for Lent have been purchased by the Sodality with the coffee and donations. Thank you for your generosity. The Sodality asks that books donated for the lending library in the vestibule be placed in the designated box rather than on a shelf. Donated books will be marked and circulated as needed. I'd like to thank the coaches who worked with the young men yesterday and throughout the season. They played a very wonderful basketball game yesterday, 2 or 3 of them as a matter of fact. They played well. The 24-hour Rosary Crusade will take place this Thursday, February the 13th. Please see Mr. Butler after Mass today if you're able to sign up or sign up online. My dear friends, I owe a debt of gratitude to a young man who did some research for me a few months back, which is the foundation of today's sermon. I have been negligent in the past 34 years in preaching the history and legislation of Catholic education from the pulpit. I ask you to prayerfully consider the information that you received today. 98% of the words today are not mine. They are quotes from the bishops of the Diocese of Cincinnati, the Archdiocese, which does affect several dioceses. We have an awful lot to be thankful for the Catholic education of this country, Catholic education in this state, and the Catholic education in this city of Cincinnati. Cincinnati is one of the foremost advocates of education in the country. And it was begun by the renowned Bishop Fenwick, who was consecrated a bishop by Bishop Baden of Kentucky. Bishop Fenwick knew of the excellence and necessity of Catholic education in general and for the individual souls themselves. The bishop's initial desire was for a Catholic school for Catholic children. He invited sisters from different orders to Ohio to start schools. He initially had some success on separate occasions, with one school opening with 1 sister and 3 laywomen. On another occasion, he managed to secure 3 Dominican sisters from Kentucky. The first school had about 24 students and lasted until the death of the sister and the 3 women disbanded. The second school lasted until the Dominican sisters were called back to Emmitsburg, Maryland, to assist St. Francis Xavier Cabrini in the establishment of schools there. Bishop Fenwick was the founder of St. Xavier College in 1831, just a few blocks from here. Bishop Fenwick had labored well in the cause of Catholic education. Many of you owe the blessing of a Catholic education to Bishop Fenwick, who died in 1832. John Baptiste Purcell became Cincinnati's next bishop. He was installed in 1833. He witnessed, over the next few years, the great migration of nations, not what your children learned with Attila the Hun and the Huns that moved across Europe for 500 years, but the migration of the nations of Germany and Ireland to the United States. As a matter of fact, Cincinnati became known as Little Germany. These German people were willing to make any sacrifice to see that their children received a Catholic education. As the rise of Catholic education became prominent, because of unspeakable resolve of devout Catholic parents, so did anti-Catholic groups. The Know-Nothings, the Native Americans, they began to attack the Catholic school system. Bishop Spalding declared that the question of religious education was, in the minds of the fathers of the Council of Cincinnati, the test of fidelity or infidelity to God. The fathers of this council, governing Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, and Virginia, proclaimed, "Earnestly do we desire to see a parochial school in connection with every Catholic church in the province. With all the influences constantly at work to unsettle the faith of our children and to pervert their tender minds from the religion of their fathers, we exhort you to contribute with every means to the ability for every parish to afford a school. One cannot sever religion from education," end quote. Bishop Purcell praised the German Catholics on their Catholic education, especially the daily attendance of Mass and the unified singing of Catholic hymns by the children of the schools, the children of God. Under Purcell, religious came from France, from Belgium, from Switzerland and other countries. Religious men and women came at great sacrifice to secure the Catholic education of children whose parents were zealous to secure the salvation of their children. These parents were uncompromising. They were not reeds shaken in the winds of worldly pursuits. Although the Catholic school system in Cincinnati showed great growth, there were considerable difficulties. There were times when the less serious Catholic would defect to public schools. The first two bishops of the Diocese of Cincinnati considered the necessity of Catholic schools as a matter of course, so that wherever Catholic churches were built, the Catholic school was sure to follow, and even in some cases, as in our own case, the school predated the establishment of the church edifice. The education of the religious was paramount. The bishops required teachers to have 4-year degrees. Over 75% of the religious teachers had degrees, whereas only 66% of the public school teachers had 4-year degrees. The Catholic Church has always taught that the spiritual formation of the student is most important consideration and the primary aim of the teacher. How sad it is, the fathers of the council said, when parents lose sight of this truth and replace the spiritual focus with social and athletic aspirations. In 1928, after uniting all Catholic institutes of learning in Ohio, the public school system recognized the degrees awarded by the Catholic teachers' colleges. In the early 20th century, the educational training soared in the United States. By the 30s and 40s, it was at its zenith. After World War II, the lay teacher became a necessity due to the tax for public schools forced upon Catholics, Protestants, and Jews alike, who could barely pay for their religious schools. The resilient Catholic did what they had to do to support their religious schools. Some, and I'm quoting the council, some misguided and tepid Catholics fled to the public schools. The unchristian schools' plan for the slow death of the Catholic school system was afoot. I believe it was Oregon itself, the state that required all students to go to public schools by law, and the Catholics fought it and won. The Catholic school system could never afford the fringe benefits of retirement, could never afford the fabulous salaries and other benefits. It relied upon teachers who were not looking for all this, but who were motivated by a sense of spiritual duty to aid the parish school in any way possible. These teachers knew that God would supply their needs 100-fold if they would instruct the little ones. Lay teachers have always made a tremendous contribution to the character formation of pupils in Catholic schools. Students take it for granted the moral goodness and practical Catholic living on the part of their religious teachers. But when they see this in the lay teacher, it impresses them even more. Lay teachers have a definite place in the field of Catholic education, says Father Ryan, the then superintendent in the Catholic school system. Lay teachers can add what religious do not see, being removed from the world. Pope Pius XI said, "It fills our souls with consolation and gratitude towards the divine goodness to see side by side with religious men and women engaged in teaching such a large number of excellent lay teachers, calling them a most excellent and powerful auxiliary of Catholic action." The provincial councils of Cincinnati have decreed that common schools were objectionable, meaning public schools, that Catholics could not attend them without grave danger to their faith. The opposition to parochial school then began to manifest itself. Archbishop Purcell attended the council and was the chairman of the Committee on Catholic Education of Youth and Allied Matters. Amongst the 25 decrees enacted by the council, the 13th decree dealt with education. The bishops of the Midwest maintain an uncompromising attitude of fidelity to the principles of Catholic schools for the Catholic child. Bishop Spalding says, "The question of religious education," I quote him, "in the minds of the fathers of the Cincinnati councils, the test of fidelity or infidelity to God, and their earnest conviction on this subject have been productive of the most important practical results, as the history and present condition of that province abundantly proves." At one time, during the reign of Cardinal Spellman, Catholic education in the United States was considered the greatest Catholic fact. The council goes on and says, "We admonish pastors of souls again and again to make every effort to keep boys and girls committed to their care from frequenting those schools which they cannot attend without grave danger to their faith and morals. And at the same time, we exhort parents to aid and sustain in a fitting manner the parochial schools and others under Catholic direction. Bishop Spalding was commissioned to write 3 pastoral letters, one for each of the successive councils. After counseling the clergy, the letter exhorted the laity to be firm in their faith and to guard their children from the countless dangers that beset them. The fathers wrote, and I quote, "We beseech ye, Christian parents, by the bowels of the mercy of God, that you be ever mindful of your solemn obligation to guard your children from a danger so imminent, and to rear them up, both by word and example, in the knowledge and practice of their religious duties. Else you will have to give an awful account of their souls at the dread bar of God, who will demand their blood at your hands." End quote. Religion is an essential element. It is the very foundation of all sound education. Religious instruction should be combined with the elements of merely human learning, that our youth may grow up in the fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of wisdom. It is religion alone that can effectually curb the evil concupiscence with which we all unhappily inherit from our first parents. And its holy influence alone can check those headlong passions, which else would precipitate thoughtless youths into the abyss of vice. Children reared up and educated without suitable religious education and training often become, by their perverseness, the pest of that society of which they should be the ornament and support. And instead of being the solace of their parents in declining age, they sadden their hearts by reckless vice and stubborn disobedience. We beseech you then, Christian parents, I'm still quoting the fathers, to bear this solemn obligation constantly in mind, and provoke not your children to wrath, but to bring them up in the discipline and the correction of the Lord. The council goes on to say, quote, "Cooperate zealously with your pastors in promoting religion's instruction of your children. Teach them daily at home and see that they attend punctually the classes for catechetical instruction. Above all, encourage the erection and support of parochial schools in which religious principles are inculcated, along with the elements of learning. Education is not to be severed from religion, which is its main support and solid foundation. The creation of Catholic schools is, in many respects, as important an object as the building of new churches. Indeed, the parochial school often precedes the parish church. In Cincinnati, often did the Catholic schoolhouse go up first and the church followed. The Council of Cincinnati goes on to say, our excellent German congregations leave nothing to desire on this subject. The children attend Mass every morning and sing with one accord the praises of God, and they go from church to school. They're accustomed to cleanliness and neatness of dress, to punctuality and order, to diligence and affectionate respect from their parents, clergy, and teachers. We have nothing more at heart than that the pupils of our English schools should imitate these German schools. The fathers of the councils have decreed that all pastors of souls are obliged on the pain of mortal sin to provide, when possible, a Catholic school in each parish or congregation under their care. And in order that each ordinary may know what parishes this obligation exists, the fathers have decreed that the law of the Council of Trent regarding each parish make known its financial status to the bishop every year. In speaking of the duties of the lay people, the pastoral letter impressed upon them the obligation of giving substantial aid and cooperation for the erection of schoolhouses wherein young children may receive a sound Christian education under the sanction of the church and under the shadow of the holy sanctuary. What is the duty of Catholics with regards to the right education of youth? In the first place, they must teach them the catechism or send them where they will learn it. The Catholic school and to the church, to their own school and their own church, not another. Secondly, they must provide for them teachers who will know how to teach, who will give them good example, who will not suffer their children to be exposed to spiritual dangers. The children must be furnished with books and instruction which will explain to them the end for which they were created. The fathers express the need and desire for a body of men and women who will devote themselves to the education of youth, from the most perfect, the most sustaining of all motives, pure love. Catholic education was the most vital and necessary of the questions for the fathers of the council. They exhort us to promote everywhere, according to your means, the erection of schools where your children may be educated in learning and in piety, free from the contagion of the dangerous example and corrupt or false principles of the world. The Council acknowledges the children are the hope of the Republic and of the Church in the next generation. God gave you these little ones, and as the Council says, He will demand their blood and their souls at your hands. Do not forget your solemn obligation, your solemn responsibility to God in their regard. The pastoral letter pointed out the progressive demoralization amongst the youth of our country and attributed it in large measure to the lack of any definite religious instruction in our public schools. Education without any religious principle or with false and pernicious ones can rear only a generation of religious indifferentists and practical infidels. As religious training is not possible in public schools, which non-Catholic religious training can only produce lifeless souls, dead to the faith, so parents are willing to sacrifice the religious education of our children for a merely worldly convenience. We must praise the parents who maintain a strong faith in this cold world, which, as President Lincoln said, a world which has forgotten its God. Generally speaking, where there is an adequate Catholic school Parents cannot, without sin, often serious sin, send their children to public schools. Impossibility is the only reason which excuses the parish priest from maintaining and running a Catholic parish school. Except for the offering of the holy sacrifice and administering the sacraments, the priest shall place the care of his school before all other duties of his office. The establishment of the Catholic school is his eminent obligation. He should not rest until his flourishing school excels the public schools in education. The fathers of the councils, the bishops of America, teach us that those who contumaciously send their children to a school which is a proximate occasion of losing the faith cannot be absolved. Pope Leo approved of this legislation in this, the Fourth Council of Cincinnati. Since the security of the faith is in no way provided for unless children receive Catholic instruction, we admonish all the faithful not to omit anything or refuse to undergo any sacrifice necessary for their most important purpose, the Catholic education of their children. Such education can scarcely ever be given without a Catholic school. And therefore, upon each pastor, together with his people, there rests an obligation to establishing such a school, which should be of even greater concern than the beauty and the size of the parish church. So a lot in this sermon, my dear friends, a lot in the councils of Cincinnati, wise counsel. Prayerfully consider it. Consider the great treasure you have here at Immaculate Conception Academy. Consider your duty to support. There is a golden opportunity to assist Immaculate Conception Church, to assist the Catholic Church, to assist your own soul. There are many graces awaiting you in aiding this Catholic education, and children daily receiving the sacraments, in religious education, in the Catholic friends that they will make for life. You have a unique golden opportunity to assist God in his work here on earth. God love you and God bless you. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, amen.